It is 3:14 in the morning. Your eyes snap open in the dark. The house is silent, the room is still, and somewhere deep in your chest a quiet alarm is ringing for no reason at all. You lie there. You wait. You reach for your phone, and the screen burns into your eyes like a small white sun. You tell yourself something is wrong with you. But nothing is wrong with you. For almost the entire span of human existence, waking in the dead of night was not a malfunction. It was the plan. During roughly 99.9% of the time your species has walked this earth, no human being expected to sleep 8 unbroken hours. That expectation is younger than the light bulb. Your ancestors would have looked at it and felt something close to fear. So why does your body still wake you at 3 a.m., long after the world ordered it to stop? To answer that, you have to forget almost everything you have been told about sleep. You have to walk backward through time, past the alarm clock, past the bedroom, past the very idea of a full night. You have to stand in a darkness so complete that it no longer exists in the modern world. A darkness without a single glowing edge. Picture the night your ancestors actually lived. The sun is gone. There is no switch to flip, no glow under the door, no screen waiting on the nightstand. When darkness fell, it fell on everything at once. The cold crept in, the fire burned low. And your ancestors did something that would sound insane to you now. They went to sleep early, sometimes only an hour or two after the last light left the sky. They called it the first sleep. Their bodies sank into deep rest while the night was still young. And then, hours later, in the blackest middle of the night, they woke. Not in a panic, not reaching for anything. They simply opened their eyes in the dark, exactly the way you do now. But here is the part that will quietly rearrange how you see your own 3 a.m. They stayed awake on purpose. For an hour, sometimes two, the household stirred in the quiet. People prayed. People talked in low voices about the day behind them and the day ahead. Lovers reached for each other. Some lay still and let their minds drift through the soft edges of half dreams. The fire was fed. The animals were checked. A parent listened to the breathing of a sleeping child. And then, when the body grew heavy again, they returned for what they called the second sleep, and slept on until the gray light of dawn pulled them up. This was not rare. This was not strange. This was simply what a night was, and there was a hidden genius in it. With people drifting awake at different hours of the dark, a household was almost never fully unconscious all at once. Someone was always half awake. Someone always heard the branch snap, the strange sound at the edge of the firelight, the shift in the wind. A sleeping group is a vulnerable group, and for a creature surrounded by predators in the open night, a body that woke on its own in the small hours was not a defect. It was a guard. It was protection wearing the disguise of restlessness. Now you can begin to feel why your body still treats that hour as important. Does that quiet waking hour sound familiar to you now? Then came the thing that broke it. The force that quietly rewrote the human night was not a war and not a disease. It was an invention. It was light. First the gas lamp, then the electric bulb, then the glowing rectangle that now lives in your pocket. Suddenly the evening did not end when the sun went down. It stretched. It grew teeth. The hours that once belonged to the first sleep were swallowed by work that began later and ended later, by entertainment that never dimmed, by a clock that demanded you crush your entire night of rest into one rigid, unbroken block. The factory needed bodies on a schedule. The schedule did not care about your second sleep, the office did not care, the bright city did not care. So the night was squeezed from both ends, earlier mornings and later evenings closing in, until the ancient waking hour in the middle was crushed flat and given a frightening new name, insomnia. Something humans had done for hundreds of thousands of years was suddenly treated as a sickness. A pattern older than farming, older than cities, older than writing, became almost overnight a symptom to be cured. And you inherited that fear without ever being asked. You wake at 3 a.m. and you do not think, this is the old rhythm returning. You think, I am broken, I will be exhausted. I am failing at the one simple thing a body is supposed to do. But the historical record says otherwise, and so does the science. A historian named Roger Eckert spent years digging through diaries, court documents, medical texts, and prayers written across many centuries. He found the same quiet phrase appearing again and again, casually, as if every reader already understood it. First sleep, second sleep. The references turned up everywhere, in many languages, scattered across hundreds of years. People described what they did in the waking hour between the two sleeps as plainly as you would describe pouring a glass of water. The pattern had been so ordinary that no one bothered to explain it. It only disappeared from our language once electric light erased it from our lives. But maybe old diaries are not enough to convince you. Maybe you want to watch it happen inside a living human body. A sleep researcher named Thomas Vare did exactly that. At the National Institute of Mental Health, he took a group of modern people and removed the one thing your ancestors never had. He removed artificial light. For weeks, he gave them long, dark nights, 14 hours of darkness, the kind of night that existed before the bulb, and something remarkable happened on its own. Their single block of sleep slowly cracked into two pieces. They would sleep, then wake in the middle of the night for a calm, peaceful stretch, then drift down into a second sleep. No one taught them this. The ancient pattern simply returned, like a path reappearing once you clear away the weeds. It had never left. It had only been buried under a century of light. And it runs deeper than dusty diaries and laboratory beds. A scientist named Jerome Siegel studied human communities that still live much the way your distant ancestors did, far from cities and clocks and electric grids. He wanted to know how people sleep when the modern world has not touched their nights. What he found quietly dismantled the myth of the flawless 8 hours. These were not people lying awake in torment. They woke, they stirred, they rested, and they did not treat a brief night waking as a disaster. There was no dread attached to it. There was no panic in the dark, because no one had ever told them there was anything to panic about. Their nights bent and stretched with the seasons, longer in winter, shorter in summer, exactly as a human night was built to do. And inside your own body, the machinery that made all of this possible is still running tonight. In the deep middle of the night, your core temperature sinks to its lowest point, and then, as morning approaches, a quiet tide of cortisol begins to rise to lift you toward waking. For your ancestors, that rising tide met the natural break between the two sleeps and felt like nothing at all. For you, it arrives in a body trained to expect 8 flawless hours, and the same gentle chemical nudge lands like an alarm. Same biology, same hour, a completely different story laid on top of it. So sit for a moment with what that means. The dread you feel when you wake in the dark is not coming from your body. Your body is doing something ancient and correct. The dread is coming from a story you were handed, a story that insists a night must be one solid slab of unconsciousness, or else you have failed. Your heart is not racing because waking is dangerous. Your heart is racing because you have been taught to believe it should not be happening at all. Your 3 a.m. is not a glitch, it is a memory. When you open your eyes in that silent hour, you are not malfunctioning. You are stepping into the same quiet your ancestors stepped into 10,000 times. The hour between the two sleeps, the gentle watch in the dark. The only real difference is this. They met that hour with calm, and you meet it with fear. They had a low fire and a sky drowning in stars. You have a glowing screen that tells your tired brain the sun has come back, and drags you further and further from the rest you are chasing. So what would happen if you simply stopped fighting it? What would happen if, the next time you woke at 3 a.m., you did not grab your phone, did not curse your body, did not lie there desperately counting the hours of sleep slipping away? What if you let the waking hour be exactly what it has always been? A pause, a breath in the middle of the dark. A stillness your ancestors would have recognized in an instant, because to them it was never the enemy of sleep, it was a part of sleep, a room inside the night. There is a strange grief hidden inside all of this. Progress gave you light, and light gave you longer days, more work, more wonders, more of nearly everything. But it quietly took something too. It took the slow, unhurried night. It took the second sleep. It took the calm and convinced you that an experience older than written history is a defect to be medicated into silence. You gained the whole lit up world, and you lost the dark. So the alarm that rings in your chest at 3 a.m. is not really a warning about danger in your room. It is a warning of a quieter and far stranger kind. It is the last echo of an older way of being human, still ringing softly inside you, still keeping the ancient appointment, still waking you for a watch that the modern world has forgotten how to keep. Tonight, when your eyes open in the dark and the house is silent and that quiet alarm begins to ring for no reason at all, you will finally understand the truth. Nothing is wrong with you. Something is right. Something very, very old, calling you back to a night that progress tried to erase.